we are going to talk about the Palworld situation. Okay, so if you guys are unaware, Palworld has released an official statement on their Twitter page. And this statement has to do with Nintendo and a patch that they just recently added to their game that a lot of people are upset about. So we're going to go over their official statement right now. So everybody and their mother knows that Palworld is currently being sued by Nintendo. At this point, though, join the club because it seems like everybody's being sued by Nintendo, but that's besides the point. Nintendo is suing Palworld for a multitude of things, and Nintendo is also being very sneaky in this lawsuit. What do I mean by that? Well, Nintendo tried to add patents that would help them in their lawsuit after filing the lawsuit, which is something like that's a no-no. I don't even know why you even think you could get away with that. They tried to file patents that will help them fight Palworld in the claims that they have against Palworld. But the thing is, they filed it after the lawsuit, so kind of stupid. So 21 out of 22 patents didn't even go through, if I'm not mistaken. Only one patent actually went through. But in any case, Palworld is getting sued regardless, and they've been having to make changes to their game little by little. But this particular change is actually pretty huge for a lot of players. Now, not everybody is affected by this because from what I can understand, again, I haven't played this game yet. I do have it, but I just have no time. From what I understand, you have the option to glide with your pal or not. And a lot of people, I remember seeing screenshots of people gliding with their pal. But in any case, now apparently you are no longer able to do that, and they have completely taken it out of the game because of the lawsuit that's happening with Nintendo. So let's go over their entire statement little by little, and let's see what's going on with this game and what's going to happen in the future, because a lot of people have questions. People have questions, and there are very little answers right now. This is Nintendo just being Nintendo and being hardcore fucking bullies. This is something that they've done for a very long time, and they will continue to do this. Palworld is not going to be the last one. There is going to get booty hole destroyed by Nintendo. But in any case, they said regarding the lawsuit changes to Palworld and the future, we would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the continued support of our fans over the past few months. We apologize for not being able to share as much information as we would like, but we trust our fans to understand how difficult it is to be fully transparent while litigation is going on. Currently, we remain involved in prolonged legal proceedings regarding alleged patent infringement. We continue to dispute these claims and assert the invalidity of the patents in question. However, we have had to make certain compromises in order to avoid disruptions to the development and distribution of Palworld. On November 30th, 2024, we released patch 0.3.11 for Palworld. This patch removed the ability to summon pals by throwing pal spheres and instead changed it to a static summon next to the player. I remember when they did that and people were losing their shit over that because they're trying, like Nintendo is essentially trying to claim ownership over the motion of throwing a ball and summoning a creature, to my knowledge, which is insane, by the way. It's like, it's very clear that Nintendo doesn't want competition. They try to limit competition through litigation. They're that kind of a company, and they'll do anything they can possibly to bury you in a lawsuit to minimize your chances of success. The problem is that Palworld released under their nose because Nintendo was asleep and they weren't paying attention because they felt like they had everything in the bag when it came to anything Pokemon remotely related. They thought they had it in the bag, and then Palworld release was the number 2 most successful game on Steam ever, and then that was enough to wake them the fuck up and realize they left their lunch, and their lunch got stolen. It's basically what happened here. So Nintendo's like, whoa, wait a second. You can't do that. You can't steal our lunch, even though we left it for you to take. You can't take our, what's wrong with you? And so they sued them. Anyway, but they already had all the money. See, that's the thing. Palworld had all the money in the world to fight Nintendo because the money came in and Nintendo was too slow to stop it. So now we have this. I wonder if they could get away with it if they turned the Pal Sphere into like a cube. Do you think they could get away with the throwing animation if they made the spheres into a cube instead of a ball? I wonder if that's even possible. But I think what Nintendo tried to do is they tried to patent the throwing of an object, not necessarily a ball. I think it was a ball though, or was it just an object? I don't remember the patent off the top of my head, but I think it was object. So if it's object, then if you throw anything, it doesn't matter. Who really knows? In any case, let's continue. Several other game mechanics were also changed with this patch. As many have speculated, these changes were indeed a result of this ongoing litigation. Everyone here at Pocket Pair was disappointed that this adjustment had to be made, and we fully understand that many players feel the same frustration. Unfortunately, as the alternative would have led to an even greater deterioration of the gameplay experience for players, it was determined that this change was necessary. It's amazing that, imagine being the anti-fun police that is known as Nintendo, that you are willing to force a company to completely change their game, little by little, just because you're so angry you got felted. The term in the patent is object. Okay. That's what I thought. So, okay, so they covered themselves, right? Because basically, if the patent would have said, oh, if you throw a ball and summon, a monster, then technically if you turned it into a cube or a triangle or something along those lines, then you technically would be okay to use it, right? Or you would technically be okay to do what you're doing and not get in trouble. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, all right, in any case, thank you for letting me know, Hypnos Cat. So now we got even more bad news. And this is where people are getting upset. So furthermore, we regret to inform our players that with the implementation of patch 0.5.5, we must make yet another compromise. From this patch onward, gliding will be performed using a glider rather than with PALs. PALs in the player's team will still provide passive buffs to gliding, but players will now need to have a glider in their inventory in order to glide. We understand that this will be disappointing for many, just as it is for us, but we hope our fans understand that these changes are necessary in order to prevent further disruptions to the development of Palworld. Bro. Oh my God, man. Talk about the anti-fucking fun police, bro. This isn't a big deal. See, here's the thing. I would agree with you that perhaps one thing is not a big deal, right? But the problem is this is now the second or third change they've done to Palworld in order to make the Nintendo overlords happy. This won't be the last thing. This will not be the last thing. They're going to continue to make changes more and more and more, because what Nintendo is trying to do is they're trying to remove the essence of what Palworld was to the best of their ability, and they're trying to make it so that there is basically no soul left. Because in Nintendo's eyes, and I'm sure they're right to an extent, a lot of people are playing Palworld because they wanted that online Pokemon game that Nintendo would never give them. They wanted that MMO Nintendo game that they would never give them. And so anything that even remotely gives them that feeling of nostalgia of Pokemon, they're trying to remove it from the game and remove that essence from the game so that people, when they play the game, are less likely to want to play it because they won't get that, oh, this is Pokemon with guns kind of a feel, Oh, of course, right, guy up. I'm not saying this is the first time, bro. Nintendo has done this all the time. This is why Nintendo is known for having Nintendo Ninjas, because that is their entire legal team, right? We already know this. Soon Nintendo will sue Palworld into having them get rid of the game entirely. How is this not a big deal? That's what I'm saying. It starts off small. Nintendo knows how to do this, right? Nintendo is basically doing this by 1,000 cuts. They're doing little by little until eventually they can go for the kill one way or another. Either they're going to force Palworld to kill the game themselves, or they're going to get the game completely taken down in general legally, which I don't think they're going to be able to do. So for me, I think they're going the other way. They're trying to remove whatever essence of Pokemon could possibly be in Palworld in order to try to convince players who pick the game up, hoping to get Pokemon with guns, that they're not going to get that. Right? That's essentially what it is. What happens if there's another game with an idea? See, this is why many people don't even bother going anywhere near something that might potentially mimic Nintendo's like IPs, because Nintendo will come down on you harder than anybody, right? If you think the company that tried to go after Schedule 1 was petty, you have no idea what Nintendo really is like. Nintendo is one of the most petty companies out there. 100%. And it's because Nintendo has not had competition for decades. Nintendo believes themselves to be above competition. They believe themselves to be above anyone who might potentially compete with them. They've had no competition for what, like 2 decades now? So why would they even bother? They're not going to bother. For them, they rather snuff you out than let you compete. They have the money for it. They're one of the richest companies in Japan, top 10 richest company in Japan. They got the money for it. So, and again, just to remind people, Xbox does not compete with Nintendo. Neither does PlayStation. PlayStation competes with Xbox. Nintendo jerks off in a corner by itself. That's how it goes. Maybe 8 years, not 2 decades. When was the last Sega system that was out? Sega was their last competition. So when was the last Sega system that's come out? Because since then, Nintendo hasn't been competing with anybody. So I don't even remember when let me look it up. When was the last Sega system? The last Sega system was a Dreamcast, released worldwide in 1999, and it was discontinued in 2001. So when Dreamcast died, basically. So Sega bowed out of the console race in 2001. So since 2001, Nintendo has had no competition. That is 24 years competition free. The Xbox is a Dreamcast 2? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, bro. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, bro. I can understand maybe the first one, maybe, but the overall aesthetic was different. Like Sega tried to go after the same customer that Nintendo was going after, which was the family. Xbox was trying to take itself more seriously. PlayStation was trying to take itself more seriously, be more of the adult console, right? So Sega was really the one that was trying to go after the same market that Nintendo has currently capitalized on for the last 20 plus years. You know? But in any case, let's continue reading this and see what we got. So we also want to extend our apologies to our fans for the discomfort and concern that this ongoing litigation has caused. We remain committed to developing Palworld and delivering exciting new content to our fans. On behalf of everyone at Pocket Pair and Team Palworld, thank you again for your continued support. And then look at Cassie, bro. Cassie is up here with 3,400 likes, and all she said was "fuck Nintendo." Oh my God, that's amazing. Shout out to Cassie. Cold Classic Cage. She just said "fuck Nintendo" with the middle finger, bro. She is so Hispanic, bro. She is so Hispanic. Master the TDS says, glad we finally got some honesty about what's been going on. It sucks that gliding with pals is going away, especially since I use Gale Claw as my glider for basically the whole game. Yeah, a lot of people. So I was reading through these comments. Fuck Nintendo. I mean, again, Nintendo not acting like greedy douchebags challenge, difficulty impossible. Man, fuck Nintendo. Fuck Pokemon. Bro, people are clearly not very happy with this overall, this. And I get it. They're not blaming Palworld. They're blaming who they should be blaming, which is Nintendo. Pokemon could have just gave us a decent game all these years instead of suing for you, giving people what they wanted. That right there is what it is. This is it. I'm liking this. This is it. This is it. It's because Nintendo did not want to give players what they wanted. Nintendo thought that they could keep their gamers exactly where they wanted the entire time, and they were never going to go anywhere because people just couldn't live without Pokemon. So they thought that any game that came out that would even remotely give people an online Pocket Monster experience, that it was just never going to do well because people love Pokemon. Which I get it. I can understand having that level of an ego when you control one of the biggest IPs in the world. But at the end of the day, you got felt it. That's just what it is. It's what it is, man. Palworld came in and they said, well, we can make this game. It's an online game, basically an MMO, and give people the online Pokemon experience that they want. And we'll do it our own way. And they became the #2 best-selling game on Steam ever. Whose fault is that? That's not Pocket Pairs. That's yours. That's yours. You were asleep. You were asleep the entire time. Say it with me. Pirating Pokemon games is morally correct. What are you doing, Step Bro? What kind of account is that? You shouldn't let them bully you like this just because you made the game people have asked for. You see what I'm saying? Everybody is saying the same thing. Everybody is saying the same exact thing. Can you compromise and give us back something that we want, like male, female body types? I think it'd be a win for a lot of community goodwill. I don't see anything wrong with that. Pokemon taking the biggest L of their entire existence by forcing this shit. Nintendo Pokemon don't own flight mechanics and mounts. Everything else I can understand. I don't understand how this is only a Palworld thing. I can play Arc and Glide with a dino across the map. No way. This is patented, right? It's because it doesn't look like Pokemon. That's the problem. Apparently, according to Nintendo, they own the entire concept of cute monsters. That's literally what it is. They view themselves as the owners and arbiters of who gets to say what when it comes to the idea and the concept of a monster that happens to be cute. And the funny thing is, there are some Pokemon that are not cute, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. That's how they view it. That's how they've always viewed it. Don't tell them about Digimon. Oh, listen. So I am sure that Digimon has had a whole bunch of issues when it comes to Nintendo. I am sure. I don't remember off of the top of my head, aside from maybe one situation, but I am sure Nintendo has tried their best to go after Digimon and have failed. And they've decided to give up because now Digimon is an established franchise. Palworld is still fairly new. Digimon has been around for a long time. So they can't go after them and say, well, you're stealing our stuff, many, many years later. You can't do that. You can't do that, right? But Digimon also, you got to keep in mind too, Digimon, people are saying, exactly, Digimon was first. So what exactly are you going to do? Digimon can sue for Mega Evolution, true. But you got to understand that Nintendo is allowed to take things, but nobody's allowed to take anything from Nintendo. Isn't that the hilarious thing about that? Sadly, you're worried about the indie Pokemon games like now. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. If there's any games out there that are trying to come anywhere close to the concept of Pokemon, just realize that Nintendo is going to come down on your neck. Nintendo's going to come down on your neck. That's just what it is. And I know people hate to hear that, but that's just the truth of the matter. So it looks like most of these comments are disagreeing with Nintendo, which is good because that means that people know where to put their frustrations at. And Nintendo 100% should be the one you should be frustrated with. I don't think anybody should be frustrated with Pocket Pair. I don't think anybody should be frustrated with Palworld. They're only doing what they got to do to survive this entire fucking litigation process that Nintendo has put them in. Nobody asked for this other than Nintendo. Nintendo's the one in here that is like that meme. You guys remember that meme where you have three people in front of a TV playing a video game having fun, and there's one guy in the back screaming at them to stop having fun, and then they look at them and they just ignore them? Nintendo is the guy in the back telling people to stop having fun. Nintendo's the guy in the back trying to control everything. Does Nintendo lawyer team have a formal complaint system? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I got to be real with you. The amount of money that Nintendo is investing in their lawyers must be astronomical. It must be astronomical. Gliding with your pal is patented. Wild. L Nintendo, L Pokemon. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Not in the extent that could get them sued, but I guess they're playing it safe. Patenting game mechanics kills innovation. True. Stifles new ideas and hurts gamers. Nintendo appears insecure and afraid to compete. Oh my God, this comment. This comment is my thoughts. Exactly. This is literally what I've been saying. Nintendo does not want to compete. They are scared to compete because look what happened when Palworld released. It is very clear that there is a desire out there for content that is similar to Nintendo, but not blocked by Nintendo's bullshit. There is a desire for it out there. And Palworld has proven that. And Nintendo does not want to compete. They have had free reign over their share of the market for a long time now. They are not going to want to give it up. And they will use every form of litigation possible to ensure that they keep it for as long as possible. They are scared people will move on from their mediocrity. Mediocrity is a strong word. But I will say that Nintendo does play it very safe. Nintendo plays it super safe. They don't really do too much innovation. They give just enough to get the Nintendo fanboys happy, and then they demand the highest price for it. And they keep running with that for, 6 years, 7 years, whatever, and then they do it all over again. They don't even have to be like competing with the latest and greatest consoles. They don't have to. Nintendo Switch 2 is literally one console generation behind, and they're selling it as a new product. It has the power of a PS4, and they're selling it in a market where there's a PS5 and a new Xbox. And then there's going to be a brand new PS6 at some point in a couple of years, and you're still going to have the Switch 2 with PS4 power. So they don't have to compete. They don't have to go hard because they have control over their section of the market, and it makes them rich. It makes them rich. Like you said, jerking it in the corner solo. That's like the best way I could explain it. Nintendo jerks off in the corner by themselves, and that is basically it. So PS4, nah, it's barely PS3. Listen, they said PS4, so I'm going to go based off what they said. So we'll see. They love their sheep. Listen, man, Nintendo has charm, okay? Nintendo does have charm. Their IPs have charm, and people grew up on their IPs, so nostalgia is very strong with a lot of the older fan base that still loves Nintendo. Nothing wrong with that. I get that. But after a while, we have to kind of sit here and realize that the fuckery is getting ridiculous, right? We have to realize that Nintendo is very scared overall to compete in any manner that is actually worth it. They don't want to compete. They want to keep people down, and they will use litigation to do it. Again, you're making these people do small fucking changes to their game to remove the essence of what the game was when it first released, little by little. It may not be completely removed right now, but if they keep having to do patches, taking things away, people are going to be pissed. And, the essence of the game is going to change little by little. It fucking sucks. Nintendo is the Fink of gaming. I suppose. So anyway, all in all, what's happening with Palworld is pretty sad, but we cannot sit here and pretend like we didn't see this coming. And this is not the end of it. There is going to be more changes. There's going to be more patches. There's going to be more things that will absolutely change in Palworld. And it's going to be just like, the way Nintendo wants it. Name says they innovated with the Wii back in the day. Even people that never game were fascinated with it. They should try innovating like that some more instead of relying on old properties. Well, I mean, didn't they get felted by the Wii? So that's probably why they decided to stop doing what they did with the Wii, because they're like, shit, we got destroyed. GDR says Nintendo needs to lose money. I wish Sega would have continued to compete. Me too. And this is why I tell people, it is unfortunate that Sega bowed out of the console race. And as much as, people love to be involved in the console wars and they want to see Xbox die and they want to see Sony die and all this stuff, I don't want to see any of them die. I really do not want Xbox to leave the console race. I don't. Because the moment they do, Sony will devolve. It's only a matter of time. Sony will get comfortable. Sony will absolutely take advantage of the fact that they have little to no competition, and they will devolve. I'm sure Sony's ego is through the fucking roof now that Xbox games are being put on PlayStation. I'm sure their ego is gigantic. If you don't think it is, I guarantee you it is. Their ego is huge. They're like, we got Xbox exactly where we want them. Sony's already doing that, pushing The Last of Us for the 20th time. Well, I mean, that's more of a Naughty Dog thing probably, but Sony obviously benefits from it. Naughty Dog loves re-releasing their games 5, 6, 7 times before they release a new game. That's how they fund their studio and keep getting money throughout the years while they do absolutely fucking nothing. So Nintendo will get ego checked? Probably. Not fast enough, unfortunately. It's going to take a real long time. Zelosi, shit, more like under a week. Perhaps. I'll argue Sony already devolved after the PS4. Fair enough. Definitely fair. But they're not quite there yet. I think there's still There's still good things, not many, but there's still good things coming out of Sony. But it's becoming harder and harder to find it for sure. And can you imagine what it would be like if they had no competition? Oh, forget about it. That's why, like, I see these Sony fanboys. They're out here and they're like, "Fuck Xbox," and I'm like, "That's great, but do you really want them to go away? Do you really want this little console war to end and one of them going away? Do you really want that? Because the implications of one of these consoles going away is going to be detrimental to the quality of the one that stays, which I don't think a lot of people understand that. Same thing for Xbox fans. They're like, fuck Sony. Hope it dies. And it's like, do you really want that? I don't think you really want that. Competition is always good for the people that are buying products. Always. Always. Right? So I don't want there to ever be a space where there isn't competition. Because if there's no competition, you get complacent, you get lazy, and you just ride out the money because you think you have it all. I don't want that. Exactly. Competition breeds innovations. Bert Dog says competition breeds excellence. Competition, Rye Guy says, is necessary for the customer. Exactly. Exactly. All of you guys are correct. Every single one of you are correct. We need more of that. Always. Especially in gaming. Always. Because we have some of the laziest developers we have ever had in the gaming industry. The skill and the talent of the average developer has substantially decreased over time. We do not need them getting any more lazier than they already are and any more comfortable than they already have been. We don't need that. We need them to feel as if they have to try in order to actually create something that people are going to want to purchase over their competitors. No competitor removes that entire situation. Capitalism for the win. Exactly. Exactly. It's why the capitalism and the free market works. Facts. You guys know exactly what you're talking about. Peaches and Cream says, good old capitalism. Absolutely. Dormant Sykes says, I do agree. Competition is essential. 100%. The PSP was great. I still have my PSP. It boots up perfectly fine, ironically. So, Xbox versus Steam, that's not competition, bro. Steam, yeah, that's not even going to happen. But in any case, that's basically it for the Palworld story. Let's catch up on Super Chats, ladies and gentlemen.